Hey, everybody, welcome to Be That Lawyer Live. We are here twice a week, every week, to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Every once in a while, I'm blessed with not just one guest, but three amazing guests, and we've got an absolute winning show for you today. With the Be That Lawyer Live panel, this is the Rainmakers, dream come true. Three top players, all in my book, 101 top Rainmaker secrets to growing a successful law practice, sharing all their best tips and secrets and ideas on how to grow a successful law practice and become a rainmaker. And this will be a two-part series. This is part one. And so we will do our best to intro those the panelists in a minute. If you're kind of meeting me and Fretzin for the first time, and I see a number of the people live here know me pretty well, some of our clients and all that, welcome. And please feel free to use the Q&A. That's how we're going to go in addition to the questions I've prepared. We want to answer your questions. So if you have a question, put it in the Q&A and I'll either get to it in real time or we'll knock it out at the end. But I wanted to just tell you to please participate as much as you like with Q&A. All right. I'm Steve Fretzin. I'm the host for today and the host of the Be That Lawyer podcast. And, for those who don't know, I do coaching and training for highly motivated, ambitious attorneys around the world who want to dramatically grow their law practices. I also run currently 4 Rainmaker roundtables for lawyers who are already killing it and want to participate in a group with other lawyers and share their wisdom and be able to share secrets and ideas and tidbits and I do bring in a ton of great guest speakers as well. So that's enough about me. Let's meet our amazing panel today. And let's start off with Daniel Scola, Dan, as we call him, managing partner of Hoffman and Barron. Welcome. And if you would just take 30 seconds, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Glad to be here. I'm the managing partner of Hoffman and Barron, and my background originally was in the sciences. Our firm does strictly intellectual property, so it's patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, that sort of thing. I've been doing this for quite a long time, over 30 years. And I really got into the practice because my dad was an inventor and I saw his invention get stolen.
Mm.
And I thought, that's kind of an interesting thing. How do you protect that? And then I ended up, finding a way. So that's why I got into IP. But I was in corporate practice for a long time, and I went the opposite way. I was inside counsel, and I went and started the private practice route. So
Yeah.
we have 3 offices, and just strictly IP.
Did you ever see that movie with Greg Kinnear about
Oh yeah,
he created the intermittent wipers and it got stolen? Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's so
yeah,
horrible.
I know.
Ugh.
Well, I can't watch that movie. It's very difficult.
It's like watching Divorce Story. Just
Yeah,
can't you can't get through it. It's so horrible.
yeah. And I'm not sure I would have agreed with a lot of the decisions. That's the
You made
biggest
a
issue.
lot of bad decisions. Yeah. Well, lawyer up. That's the first
Yeah,
decision you make when you're an inventor, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Let's go to Eido. Eido Walny, everybody, is the founder and managing partner of Walny Legal Group. Welcome and introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Steve. So my name is Eido Walny. I'm the founder and managing partner of Walny Legal Group. We're a boutique estate planning shop based out of Milwaukee, but with a national scope. My clients range from sort of everyday people to celebrities, professional athletes, doctors, multi-generational wealthy people. On the side, I make cufflinks, I restore cars, and do all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah, the entrepreneurial spirit is not lost in you, right?
Nope.
And speaking of entrepreneurs, Karl Seelbach, everybody, is the founder of Doyle and Seelbach and also the founder of Scribe. So welcome, Karl, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, for the warm welcome. Karl Seelbach, based in Austin, Texas. I am one of the founders of Doyle and Seelbach. We started in 2015 with just 2 of us, and we've grown that to almost 40 people and counting. And we do personal injury defense. So we defend a lot of different companies, restaurants, retailers, grocery stores, shipping logistic companies, a lot of different verticals. We defend them across the state of Texas on personal injury cases. And then as my second job, I guess, technically, I am one of the founders of Scribe and do a lot of speaking for them, a lot of product development work. It is a software company that's changing the way that attorneys capture and analyze depositions and other forms of legal testimony. And then my third job is a part-time volleyball dad. So I'm at volleyball games all the time, it feels like.
Yeah.
I have two daughters who keep me very busy, but those are kind of truly my three passions right now in life.
You ever run into Ken Levinson here in Chicago?
I haven't, but we have a Chicago tournament this coming season, I think.
Okay.
So,
You should get together. His son is playing collegiate volleyball. He
oh,
travels all around the country to watch his son play, and really amazing.
yeah, very, very cool.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, everybody. Well, again, so happy that you're all here. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Rankings.io, amazing company. If you're looking to grow and leverage your website and leverage your marketing to the fullest, check out Rankings.io. The Lawher podcast with Sonia Palmer, really putting out great content, particularly for women that are looking to grow their law practices and get ahead. And Legalverse Media, check that out as well. It's an international flair to a legal publication online, so check that out. And with that, we're going to jump in and get started. We've got a lot to cover today. I'm like a big problem solution guy. That's kind of my jam and my flow. So I always want to start with problems. Let's start off with Eido on this one. And just generally speaking, why do you see lawyers struggling with business development and marketing and making it rain? Why is that such a challenge for lawyers in the past and even today?
I mean, I think if you're not a natural marketer, where are you going to learn these skills, right? So we are generally successful people who did well in college, did well in law school. Some people like Dan had other careers before this, but if you weren't in a marketing role, how are you supposed to learn marketing? I mean, I remember even when I started my career at a big law firm, one of the gripes of the junior partners was, you're told as an associate, just go work hard, don't worry about anything else. And then one day you're promoted to the point where now you're supposed to be a rainmaker and they say, okay, now start getting clients. And you have no idea how to approach that. And it's as if they expect you to just flip a switch and be able to do it. And that's just not how it works. I think a lot of lawyers just aren't naturally good at it. Some certainly are, but if you don't have a background in it or you don't have a natural talent to it, it's a skill that you've got to really work hard at and develop. And I think that's why a lot of lawyers struggle with it and get frustrated and sometimes stop doing it.
Yeah. Before I started my podcast, a couple of years before, I went around and I interviewed managing partners around Chicagoland, and they'd bang the table and say, you got to get out there, got to get out there. And I was like, this is unusable content. Get out there. Like, that was not going to help anybody. Everyone knows you got to get out there. Like, come on, man, get to give me some details. Dan, you want to take it from here, and then we'll wrap up with Karl on this one.
Oh yeah, sure. I agree with Eido. I think especially the younger people, they're not used to really speaking to people. They text, they email, they do lots of behind the scenes communication, but even getting on the phone is not as comfortable for them. A lot of the younger people, that's what I find. So one of the things I'm thinking of doing is requiring them to join something like Toastmasters, where they have to get up and speak on a regular basis, and they have to give some kind of presentations during the year. That's one of the requirements that I'm putting in place. So, hopefully it will work. Yeah.
It's become a real challenge. I mean, I text with my son. He's a teenager at Colorado State now, freshman year. And his texts are ridiculously bad. Like, I have no idea what he's talking about. And the phone call is actually better, but texting, it's like I have to call him to find out what his text means. It's so the communication with the kids today is definitely a challenge. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Karl?
Yeah, I mean, for people that are interested in rainmaking who aren't already rainmakers, especially, maybe junior associates and things like that, I think you have to seek it out. It's not just going to magically happen. And if you're not at a firm that helps cultivate it, ask them. It may just be that you need to be a squeaky wheel and you need to ask for people to invite you to, whether it's a biz dev pitch, whether it's a client retention event. You have to get in there and see what it's like. And you can learn through osmosis, but it's also good to just learn by doing. And I think a lot of firms sometimes, give it lip service. I think others will actually support the attorney in developing if you seek it out and ask for it. And, it's one of the things that at my firm, I always tell the associates, and we try to do this with every time we're pitching a client or meeting with a client, we try to loop in an associate. Hey, let's invite this associate so they can see what this is like, so they can experience it firsthand. So I think, if you're not getting that type of support, and even after you've asked for it, you probably should consider looking elsewhere, because that's the only way you're going to learn is you need a mentor. And so my advice would be get a mentor, get someone to help guide you along the path.
I mean, it's really at the basics of it. Like, become a student of the game. Find a mentor. Find someone that's successful doing it. Emulate them. Spend time with them. Grab a book. I don't know if you know. I've got a few. Other people do too. Watch some videos. Listen to podcasts. Like, there's content to get you on the right path. It may not get you all the way there, but it starts getting you in the right mindset that this is an important part of the law. You didn't sign up for it. I've yet to talk to someone and say, I can't wait to be a lawyer so I can go sell legal services. It never happened. Thousands of lawyers I've met, no one's ever mentioned it to me. So it's not a real thing, but it is part of the business of law. So I appreciate you guys sharing that. One of the concerns that lawyers have is that, time. And so, Rainmakers don't just do business development. They build it into their daily lives. They build it into their law practices. And Dan, let's start off with you. What's one habit that helps you stay consistent with business development and has led to much of your success? If you're a Rainmaker and you're feeling like you're on an island, you don't have anyone to share your ideas with, solve problems with, you're going to want to check out my Rainmaker roundtables. Click the link below and learn more.
I tend to group things during the day. So if I have phone calls to make, I group them. I have, emails or documents that I have to draft. I sort of group it as best I can so that I can leave some time to just do follow-up calls on people I've met. For example, I just came back from in a large conference in Japan where intellectual property people from all over the world go. And I go to 3 or 4 of these conferences a year. Now, I see the same people a lot of times. But I still follow up with them, even though I know them. And then I meet some new people and I follow up with them. You have to leave a little bit of time every day to do that. And then that gets you in the time, the mind frame to do it. And if you don't do that, you don't get the relationship long term. Like, I cannot see people for 3 or 4 years even, and we have a relationship because I'm staying in contact with them. It's just a thinking of you thing. Doesn't have to be giving legal advice. It's just a connection, because people want to work with people they like and they know, even more than, the highest, most competent person in the world. If they don't like you, they're not going to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's something interesting about Japan. I interviewed a lawyer who practices in Japan, and you know how, like, in the US, when we want to ghost somebody or blow somebody up, we just say, I'll think about it. That's like a common thing that we say to, like, blow people off. In Japan, they go, that sounds difficult. And when you hear that in Japan, if you're trying to sell anything, like, no, you're pretty much out. Like, it's not going to happen. So
Well,
little Japanese culture. Is there anything you picked up?
There's one that I when I can't get anywhere on a negotiation, let's say I had a litigation in Japan. What I do is I use there's a societal guilt is very important over there to them, and they're very careful about respect and all that. And if you can plug into their cultural norms a little bit,
Yeah.
and use that as part of it. And the other thing is, just when they nod their head, that has nothing to do with agreement. That just means I heard you.
Okay. I heard you. Yeah, I'm nodding as I hear you. So
Yeah. That doesn't mean they agree. You think, oh, I got an agreement. It's going like this.
I have this locked up.
No way.
All right. Well, I hate to hear what happens when they go like this. They shake their head no.
All right.
Hey, everybody. You ever wonder why top executives and athletes are so successful? It's typically because they have a coach, someone that is looking at them from the outside to identify their gaps, identify their potential. That's what I do. I'm Steve Fretzin, and I'm here to help you be that lawyer. If you're interested in a free consultation, click the link below and we'll get together and we'll identify where you can make improvements to be that lawyer.
You know you're in trouble.
But let's go to Karl. Karl, what's one habit that helps you stay consistent with client development and just produces over and over again for you?
Yeah, I mean, look, time blocking, I think, is super important, and Dan alluded to it. I once had it kind of put to me this way. Most attorneys tend to live in reaction mode, and we're always working for the business, right? For those of us who bill by the hour, and do a halfway decent job of our legal work, there's plenty of work. And so we could bill, 40 plus hours every single week and not carve out and protect the time to work on the business. So I think of it as you can always work for the business and work on the cases or matters or whatever you're doing, but you also have to work on the business, which literally means take a step back and see the forest from the trees and start to identify where do you need to invest time and effort in growing your practice. So to me, I try to block every Friday. I will say I'm still trying to get better at it, more disciplined at it. But Friday, or at least half of Friday, tends to be the time that I take a step back. Don't worry if I don't bill 3 or 4 hours that afternoon, and just focus on the business as a whole. And then the other piece of advice I would have is you got to track it. You got to learn a CRM. Most attorneys roll their eyes when they hear the word CRM. It doesn't have to be HubSpot or something like that. It could just be a task manager, but you really do have to track it. Who are your leads? Have you met with them? You sometimes going to need to meet with them more than once. Have you pitched them? If so, what's the status and follow up? I mean, if you don't track it, it's not going to happen. So those would be my kind of two pieces of advice: would be make the time, preferably weekly, at least once a month. And two is document it, and maybe even get an accountability partner, someone to hold you accountable along that journey.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Spot on, man. I appreciate that. Eido.
I mean, I find it hilarious that the three of us have never met, have never talked to each other, have completely different practices, and have all the same habits. I come in the morning, usually it's my least efficient time of the day. You're still a little bleary-eyed trying to get a hold of the day. While I'm having my morning coffee, that's when I will blast out some emails, short emails, right? To a lot of my good contacts. How have you been? Happy birthday. Saw you in the news. Just little things to keep those relationships warm. I think to Karl's point, a lot of people make the mistake of saying, I've met this person. Now they're in my list of contacts. That's not good enough, because think of all the people think of all the people they know. It's a lot of people. And so to stay warm, to stay on the top of their radar is really important. And sometimes all it takes is a little short email to connect with them, to warm up that relationship. Maybe it sparks a lunch. Maybe it sparks, hey, I was thinking of you. I've got something for you. I can't overstate how important that is. The other thing I try not to do that's maybe a little bit unique is I try not to eat alone. If I'm going out for lunch, I'll try to grab someone and say, hey, are you available? Try to block it out in advance on someone's calendar. Everybody's eating, right? And so if you have an opportunity to chat with someone and spend a little extra time with them in a very disarming environment, I always, and oftentimes, frankly, we won't even be talking about business. We'll talk about family. We'll talk about the kids and sports and things like that. Again, you work with people you want to work with. We always think of ourselves as unique service providers, but really a lot of us become commodities to a lot of the people we work with. And so to be that special person with a warm relationship with our referral sources and other contacts is the reason they come to us and not the next person.
Yeah. Really, really brilliant, everybody. So appreciate that. There's everybody has their evolution of how they become a rainmaker. It doesn't happen overnight. There might be a breakthrough moment, an aha moment. It might be an evolution over time. Let's stay with you, Eido. How did it happen for you? What was either your breakthrough or your evolution that led to where you are today?
I mean, I remember it very, very specifically. So my first day of work at my big law firm when I was just starting my legal career was September 4th, 2001. So I had a really great first week, and my second week started out a little rough. So in the craziness post 9/11, one of the things that my firm did was assign us mentors. And I had an interesting mentor. I actually just recently reconnected with him. And I don't remember virtually anything he told me, except for one particular conversation that I remember clear as day. We were sitting in my office not long after 9/11. And he said, listen, this firm can take everything away from you, right? They can take away your office, your salary, your assistant. They can walk you right out the door. There are two things that this firm can never, and no one can ever take away from you. That's your knowledge base and your contact base. And so to have a good, long legal career, you should always work on those two things, because those will always belong to you and those will always be marketable. And literally from the next day forward, I always worked every day to chip away a little bit about learning a little bit more about my craft and trying to meet people, to the point where I've now become a hub of meeting people and connecting people. But I mean, that started out literally from almost zero. When I came to Milwaukee, I knew one single person, and now I've become one of the people who you turn to when you need a sort of unique contact really anywhere in the country. And that was done starting from that mentor's advice. And I've worked on it for 25 years now.
Well, it goes back to what was mentioned earlier about get a mentor. Like find people that are doing it and that can give you that kind of sage advice, and understand that if you're surrounding yourself with other service partners or people, and nobody's got any motivation, that's that maybe that might be okay for now, but maybe not for the future. Karl, you want to chime in on this?
Sure, happy to. So I tell two stories here. The first one will be really short. So when I started at a law firm, someone recommended the Curmudgeon's Guide to Practicing Law, which I'm very for. I don't know who recommended it, but
I love that.
But I read it, and I was a really young associate at the time, probably first year or second year, and I took the advice to heart. And there's a lot of concepts in the book, but the one that is relevant to this is treat your nameplate on your door as your own shingle, and really treat your partners as your clients. And that is the way I practiced law when I was at Winstead. I treated every partner as though they were a client. And I think that helped set me up for success. How did the rainmaking ultimately happen? I had a bad exit. And what I mean by that is Trek and I left Winstead in a way that I regret. And we ultimately lost a major client as a part of that exit. So when we left, we only had one client, one case. And my wife was pregnant at the time. And so, there was a fire in the belly. There was sleepless nights, but there was kind of a literal need to go and develop business to pay the bills. And so I don't think anything gets you much more motivated than that. And so ultimately we just started working our Rolodexes, so to speak. And that was pre-COVID. And so we would drive and meet with anyone in our network who would listen. And we weren't afraid to make the ask. I mean, I think some lawyers are like, oh, you don't want to ask for business. They think that is maybe not the right approach. I disagree. You have to be willing to make the ask at some point. Maybe it's not the first meeting, but in several of those leads that I was kind of working through, I would say, send us one small case. I want to show you how we handle cases and the level of quality and communication you're going to get from our team. And I'm confident that we're going to knock it out of the park for you. And a lot of those people ultimately said yes. They found one small case to send us. We did exactly what we said we were going to do, which, by the way, is probably the one piece of advice that will get you more business in general. Do what you say you're going to do by when you say you're going to do it. And the rest is history. And we've grown it to 30 to 35 institutional clients at this point.
Yeah. Amazing. Dan?
Yeah. So I'd like to take off on this, the business about, first, I'll just tell you a story to begin with. So I started inside counsel, and I went the other way to outside counsel. And when I was inside counsel, I saw a lot of mergers and acquisitions. I was in big pharma. And what I learned from that is that they would consolidate, and they would, they didn't need this department anymore because they had just, acquired someone. And I thought, you only have your wits and your knowledge. That's it. Nobody cares about you in a large corporation. I mean, you're just part of the cog in the wheel, So I decided to leave, and the first thing I did was I had a lot of contacts because I had done a lot of things with other companies. I just visited those contacts. I had done business with them. Maybe they were on the other side, maybe they weren't. And just to take off on what Karl said just recently, I would ask them for business. I mean, I had the good fortune they had seen some of my work, and I had been, involved with them. But if you don't ask, you're not going to get it, especially with foreign clients. And we do an international practice. So if you're you got a language barrier to begin with, you have some cultural barriers. You have to be expressly, very clear with everything you do there. So if you need business, and I say, listen, we have a reciprocation going on right now, but we need you to send more cases because it's 3.5 times in our favor. So let's think about how we can do this.
Yeah,
you got to ask. Yeah.
I'll share real quickly as well, and then we'll wrap up with the final question for this segment. I thought I was the bee's knees. I was the top sales guy in a franchise organization, and hitting my numbers and making great money, and I thought everything was great. I was introduced to a coach, and this coach just ripped me apart, and not in a bad way, in a way where he was just able to see things about what I would, he asked me a ton of questions and really ferreted out what was I doing and how was I, executing and everything else. And he just identified all of these things that he could improve. But I had an outdated sales model that I was chasing after ghosts, that all this stuff that, filling your pipeline doesn't equate to success, right? It equates to being busy. And I learned so much from this coach that it got me into coaching, 22 years ago, and I never looked back. I knew right away that what he did for me is what I wanted to do for others. And I don't think I would be in this place, in this position with you all in my career without that coach and without understanding that sometimes it's hard to see the label from inside the bottle. And lawyers need to understand having a mentor, a coach, being a student of the game. These are all things that are going to potentially change your life forever if you make that move. Okay. This is a segment we're going to do twice. We're going to do it this time, and then we're going to do it at the end of the next segment. And it's one of my favorite things to ask. So you have to have two prepared. You have no idea what I'm about to ask you. It's called X is someone's big mistake. So in this case, it's going to be Karl's big mistake. So this is a segment where you share a mistake you made and how it made you better, stronger, faster, and you appreciate the mistake as opposed to being angry about it. What would be Karl's big mistake?
Okay, I get to go first with the surprise question. That's awesome.
You do.
Well, I've kind of already alluded to it, so I'm going to go back to something I mentioned and maybe expand on it. I didn't think I would tell a failure story on this.
Well, you might actually be telling two. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So okay. One mistake that I made that I really did learn from is when I left the world of big law, where I learned a ton. I had a great time at Winstead, but when I left there, I was relying on someone else's relationship and assuming that when we left to open up our own shop that the client would come along, because from where I sat, the attorney I was opening the firm with had worked with this client for a long time. I assumed the relationship was rock solid and that they would come along once we open up our own shingle. That turned out not to be the case. And so the mistake, as I look back, the mistake I made was I was making bets on my career, pretty significant ones, based off of someone else's relationships. They weren't my own relationships. And so one thing that I've really strived to do over the last almost 10 years now, since we started the firm, is I really want to be in every client relationship. I want to get to know them. I want to be the one sending them gifts, trying to take them to dinner, whatever it may be. I want to create a meaningful relationship with the client so that I'm more than just a name and an email address in a firm who does good work. There's a lot of firms out there that do good work. So you have to do something to, what's the best way to put it? I think clients aren't going to remember every case or matter you handle for them or every trial you handle for them, but they're never going to forget how you make them feel. Yeah. And if you can do things in the relationship that really highlight that you value them as a person and you hear them as a person, and they don't have to be expensive things. I'll just give one example. We had a client who we insisted for a file review, hey, we'll put you up in a hotel. You don't have to drive round trip from Houston to Austin. That's a lot of time on the road. And she said, no, I've got a small dog at home. I've got to drive there and back. I can't spend the night. So I told my firm administrator, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make her a goodie bag for her road trip back. It's going to be some things for her, some coffee, some, snacks for the road. And then we're going to put together a care package for her dog that she cares so much about. And so as we finished the file review, we gave her this package that she was not expecting, probably didn't cost more than $50 to put it together. And it had just a really big impact on her. You could tell she was really touched.
Absolutely brilliant. I love that. Those are my favorite stories, right? And again, I think client loyalty is a myth if it's just great service and fair price. That's what it used to be, right? And now it's what are you doing so far above and beyond just the matter and the work, right? Great story. Thank you, Dan. Dan's big mistake. Let's go.
Okay. I think, I can think of several of them, to be honest. Let me just give you the
You've
first
got the opposite problem with Karl. Karl's like trying to pick one out, and you've got dozens.
Well, I think I would say that not over promising is a really important one for me. I mean, every client wants to know, well, what are my chances of this happening, and how do I, am I going to win this? Am I going to get forward? What's my outcome going to be? And I think learning how to give them the real story in a way which they can understand, and it doesn't turn them into, woe is me kind of attitude. So just, being honest, but also don't overpromising. And it's not an easy thing to do, because you want to be very positive. You want to give them, some hope, and that directionally they're going to be okay. But it's real easy to overpromise, and then you got to deliver what you say. Like I think Eido said early before, if you say you're going to do this, and you better be sure when you say it that that's what in fact you're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest one.
I appreciate that. Hey, Karl, I think I thought of one for you. It's putting a miniature donkey in with a bunch of baby goats. If no one knows what we're talking about, but that just sounded insane. But that might be another one of Karl's big mistakes. We'll share that later. Eido.
So I don't really believe in the concept of mistakes when it comes to marketing. So there's a tuition to be paid at the School of Hard Knocks, and doing things and learning from things that maybe didn't work out quite the way you thought they were going to work out isn't really a mistake, right? Nobody looks at marketing or rainmaking as a perfect trajectory straight line. You've got to learn what's going to work for you. You've got to make missteps along the way to learn that that's not going to work, or I should have done something differently. One thing that comes to mind immediately along these lines is, I'm an okay public speaker, probably pretty good in the grand scheme of things. And I've always pushed myself to get out in front of new markets and new people. And there's rarely an opportunity that I'll say no to. Early in my rainmaking adventure, I was offered a pretty tremendous speaking opportunity at a national conference in front of thousands of people on a topic that I wasn't super familiar with. And of course, I am someone who rarely says no. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And I probably wasn't ready quite for that opportunity. It went off fine, but there were things that I said that even probably 15 years later, still resonate in my head as, I wish I had said that a little bit differently. I wish I'd gone about this a little bit differently. I wish I'd refined the topic a little bit more narrowly so I wasn't sort of rushing through things. But again, that experience, because it still resonates in my head 15 years later, has made every single one of my speaking opportunities since then 1,000 times better. And now I'm known as a pretty good national speaker, and I attribute maybe that misstep to allowing me to do that. If I didn't have that misadventure, I might not be where I'm at in terms of national speeches. And so, again, that was a tuition that needed to get paid at the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Wow, the three of you, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you, sharing your wisdom and your stories. And I know the people listening are loving it as much as I am. And with that, we're going to wrap up this first segment. Thank you all for the live audience. Thank you, the panel. Don't go away. We're coming back with part 2 in just a moment. But I just want to tell everybody, look, this show is all about helping you to be that lawyer, someone who's confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Truly take to heart the lessons learned in this podcast and in our live show today, because these are the things that are going to make or break you in the future, and how you approach and think about yourself as the business, in addition to what you need to learn and do to be successful today and in the future. So with that, thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Don't go away if you're here live. All right. Thanks, everybody. Are you ever curious what's really holding you back in business development? Sometimes it's hard to see the label from the inside of the bottle. I'm Steve Fretzin, and I can help you grow your book of business. Get a 30-minute free consultation with me. We'll identify gaps, identify your potential, and let's take it to the next level so you can be that lawyer. Click the link below for a free consultation.